All this old baseball talk during the commercial break. No love for Pete Incaviglia, boys? His name didn't come up? All right. That's fine. Welcome
Is he
back
a,
into the show. Yes, you got something to say? What? You got an old
is that a
Marlin?
Roy? Is it
Juan Pierre,
Royal?
perhaps?
Dude,
What about
Juan Pierre.
Jim Eisenreich?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. Juan Pierre banged the drum at the Panthers game the other day because, that's their thing. You bang the drum before the game, and they had Juan Pierre there. Crowd goes nuts. Love JP.
Who knew? You did, apparently. All right, welcome back into the show. Final segment of Tapped Out. That's Brendan Tobin. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. Let's welcome in our trusty producer, Jake Noecker. Before we get into a segment called What Are the Odds, you were pretty vocal this week about John Jones getting stripped of his title. BT says it won't happen. I'm leaning more towards you. Like, dude, it's been long enough. I know you're the GOAT, but at some point, dude, they got to take that belt off your waist.
I mean, it says right in the rules, the interim champion, once they win the belt, their next fight will be the champion for a unification belt. I love John Jones, man. I love John Jones, but, dude, give up the belt. I have no problem with you fighting Stipe, but don't hold up the whole division. Jeez.
You're
Damn, BT,
adorable.
I thought you were the rule guy on this show. Who knew?
I want to pinch his cheeks. First of all, we got to follow the rules for John Jones. Dude, they moved a card out of a state for him one time.
That's true.
They've never bent the rules for John Jones. Second of all, the interim title, they went away from the rules the second, Colby Covington was fighting for an interim title because they couldn't wait a month for Tyron Woodley. And they're like, yeah, you fight for the interim title, Colby. But then the next month, Tyron Woodley, you fight for the real belt. And then eventually you guys will fight for the belt. What? That makes no sense. They've broken those rules and right over their knee. I get you, man. If I was Tom Aspinall, I'd be annoyed too. But they're dying to get that one fight in. They're dying to do it.
The interim title has lost a little bit of, I think, its original intention, as Jake points out, that if a guy's hurt, we'll give it to somebody else to not hold up the division. And then once dude can come back, they'll fight each other. But at this point, it's just, hey, we have to call somebody champion because we're trying to make a lot of money and sell these pay-per-views. So we'll give out a bunch of belts. All right, let's do a segment called What Are the Odds? Boys, let's start with you, BT. What are the odds that one day Bo Nickel is a UFC champion?
I think they're pretty damn good. I mean, the guy doesn't seem like he has a whole lot of weaknesses. He dominates a guy and then is like, I'm sorry, that wasn't dominant enough. My only question with him is always weird of he's not super young. So when does he want to make that jump to start going through everybody? Because some guys will slow roll it and some guys will just go, right into it and try and take their crack. Look at Ursig last week. They'll be like, oh, title's right away. Sign me up. Pereira, right into the fire. Sign me up. And then some guys want to be on the O'Malley train. I don't know what's right or wrong because we've seen they can be successful both ways. But talent-wise, yeah, I think that he's got all the makings of it.
Bo Nickel's 28? How is that possible? What? I thought he got out of college yesterday. Bo Nickel's 28 years old. Jake, did you mean to spit into your microphone when I asked that question?
Yeah, I was laughing. He's never going to be champion. Get out of here, man.
What?
Come on.
Really?
He's going to get fraud checked soon, guys. He's going to.
What have you seen that nobody else has? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Dude, he's 4 or 5 fights into his MMA career. He's already 28 years old. He hasn't even scratched the surface of the top 25, let alone the top 15. Cody Brundage is his best win. No, I don't think he's going to win a title. By the time he's fighting contenders, he'll be 30, 31, 32, 7, 8 fights in. I'm not about it, man. Not about it.
You're gonna eat those words. I bet he gets his shot against Hamza within the next calendar year, ragdolls him, and then we make you come back and say I was wrong because Bo Nickel, I'm 73% sure that one day he'll be champion. And he's got hands. Obviously, he can grapple. He's as good of a credentialed wrestler as we've ever seen. Now, what are you saying, BT? What's your problem?
I think to Jake's point, we don't really know if he has hands, but I would say it's tougher, like we saw with Despania today, right? It's tougher to get fraud checked when you are that good a grappler. Because you're always when you're that above everybody else, you're gonna have a safety blanket. That you wouldn't if you're striking specialty. Everybody's got the nest to go to, right? So it's gonna be tougher to find the blueprint against Bo Nickel than it will against other guys. I don't really know how good his hands are, but I just think that, look, somebody needs to have a hater. I'm glad that Jake is the guy. Like he was.
Seriously.
We can't have everybody giving you flowers. You're going to need to prove it against somebody, right?
Let's start with producer hater Jake Noecker here with this one. Jake, what are the odds that the Sugar Show Sean O'Malley is ever a champ? 2-division champion.
That's more reasonable. That's possible. He's a big
Okay.
135er as is. He's already talking some smack up there at 145 with Ilya. So maybe down the line. But I think it's more likely he's a bantamweight champion and a boxing champion, something along those lines. Not a legitimate boxing belt, but a celebrity type of fake fan belt type thing.
BT, I know champ isn't your favorite thing, although O'Malley's always kind of tried to be not the next McGregor, but the same way that Kobe and LeBron tried to emulate a lot of the stuff that Jordan did. So I think to be champ for O'Malley is important. What are the odds it actually happens?
I honestly think his biggest obstacle to it's probably coming up with Merab, because if he gets by Merab, I think I'm okay with him taking on whatever the winner is between him and between Holloway and Topuria. That's a great fight. I mean, who's gonna not want to tune into that? And he's obviously a very good striker. Neither one of those guys are gonna have a real stylistic thing that I think holds him back. And man, I think honestly, Topuria would be cool, but Sugar Sean versus Max Holloway, outside of McGregor fight, there's not many fights that are bigger than that right now. That would be amazing.
Let's go down that path, Jake. What do you think the chances are? What are the odds that Max Holloway ever gets an actual shot to fight for the belt again? Because to me, it feels like just said Pat, maybe win another fight. And I think the UFC would actually love to see him be champ. What say you?
I think it helps a lot that Volk lost to Ilya. I think Ilya
Right?
being the champ makes that a lot more possible. A lot of people are saying Ilya Max could be next. I think Ilya Sean are talking. Ilya has a lot of options. He's really taking his time choosing, but I think Max Holloway could be fighting for a belt much sooner than later.
BT Max champ?
It's definitely, I think it's a great chance of it happening, just because, first of all, you have a performance like that against Justin Gaethje, who is already basically the number one lightweight contender. Max has a great argument to fight the winner of Islam versus Dustin Poirier right away if he wanted to. I get it. Volk could claim, hey, I was the reigning champ. I've beaten Max Holloway, so I deserve any shot before he does. I understand that, but also I really would like to see Volkanovski take some time off, because that's always going to be there for him. I just want him to be healthy and recovered by the time that comes back. So you really could argue that Max Holloway is the number one contender in 2 divisions right now. And so
Crazy.
I think it's a good chance. I think I'd probably lean, Topuria being the more likely one that he would win against, as opposed to Islam. But man, you can't rule anything against Max Holloway. The guy's one of the all-time greats.
BT, speaking of all-time greats, Colby's last fight was not. It was one of the all-time stinkers, and if he was a stock, it'd be as low as possible. What are the odds that Colby Covington is ever really relevant in the UFC scene again?
I think the odds are good, just because he always seems like he's relevant. Like, that's the one thing you could say with Colby, is he's such a master at like waiting it out for the perfect opportunities. He's an opportunist, some might say. Like, you're never going to get him to fight on anybody else's terms but his. And even perfect example of this Ian Gary beef. Like, I don't really have a huge interest in the fight stylistically. I don't really see why Ian Gary wants this fight or why this is the beef to go to. But they have found something here that has sparked a back and forth on social media, and a lot of people will care about it once Colby and him get into the buildup for it. So he does a masterful job of keeping himself relevant, man. I don't think is a problem. Will he ever be champion again? No. But he will keep himself relevant.